Hey you guys, welcome to Topic Selection 101, the first in the topic selection series, where I'm going to tell you how to avoid certain topic selection pitfalls that are really common in first year composition courses and first year research papers in particular. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about the number one writing mistake I see first year composition students make on research papers. And the number one mistake students make is they choose an argument they know instead of a question they want to know more about. Let me repeat that. The number one mistake students make is they choose an argument they know instead of a question they want to know more about. And here's the issue with that. If you write a paper with an argument you know, you actually aren't learning anything. You're doing kind of the intellectual equivalent of putting away your laundry, because you have the arguments and the points you already know, and you're putting them into paragraphs the way you put socks and underwear into drawers. Only when you're writing, if you're writing a paper like this, it's like putting away your laundry for hours and hours. So here's the problem. If you write a paper that doesn't force you to learn something, your paper will be boring. And I don't mean that your paper will be boring for me to read, because honestly, that's not such a big deal. It's not the end of the world for me to read a boring paper. I do it all the time. That's what I'm here for. But the problem is that your paper is going to be boring for you to write. And I think that this is the number one reason why a lot of students who are actually naturally good writers and who actually produce pretty good papers end up hating writing, because they're choosing obvious topics and obvious arguments, and they're bored. So sometimes I'll sit down with a good student who has written a completely fine paper. Typically, it's a mid-B paper. Sometimes, if the student is really good at kind of BSing and filling space, it'll even be an A paper. But a lot of the time I can sit down with that student and say, I bet you hated writing this paper. And they'll say, yes, actually I did. And I'll say, yeah, I'm sure this was really boring to write, and I bet you hated every second of it. And here's why. Because you chose a topic and arguments that were too easy for you. And so you just kind of went through the motions for a really long time. Again, kind of like putting away laundry. So the number one piece of advice I would give to you guys as you're taking composition classes or writing research papers, or actually any papers, is to spend more time choosing a really good topic that will challenge you and force you to learn something new. Choose a topic on a question you want to know more about. And so basically, that actually means you're going to spend more time getting ready to write. So if you think of like pre-writing or brainstorming as protein, and you think of the actual process of writing as carbs, and then you think of revision as like the healthy fats in your diet. I'm suggesting that you spend a little bit, maybe less time doing the writing and a little bit more time preparing to write so that you can have a topic that will be interesting to you and that you'll actually learn something from.